The News VP, I'm back with you, and reporting continues now. The South African Federation of Trade Unions, SAFTU, describes the United States' decision to expel Ambassador Ebrahim Rasool as a serious hostile action by the Trump administration. And for reaction, we're joined now by Zwelinzima Vavi, SAFTU's General Secretary. Dr. Vavi, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. Well, the United States, in their response, said that the very comments of the ambassador are viewed as hostile towards the President of the United States. So it's an exchange of hostilities.
Well, firstly, let's once again, on behalf of SAFTU, reject in totality the decision of the United States Secretary for International Affairs, Marco Rubio, and as well as the President of the United States, Donald Trump, to expel the ambassador of South Africa and to declare him a persona non grata in that country. This is have no reason whatsoever that they can stand and explain, except to hide behind the nonsensical statement that he hates America and he hates its leadership. That's not the case. If you have listened to the interview, the input that Ebrahim Rasool made to the Mapungubwe Institute, it's quite clear that he was analyzing a phenomenon, the rise of a white supremacy tendency in the United States of America's politics, led by Donald Trump. And if I was him, I would have said that there is a rise of neo-fascism. Neo-fascism is nothing but an extreme kind of narrow nationalism, the extreme mobilization of society against the migrant workers from other countries, extreme sentiments against Islamic nations, against African nations, as you could see.
Yeah.
From in terms of who he is banning, in line with his presidential orders.
But Donald Trump would say he's been given overwhelming mandate by his people, his constituency, who voted him in power, to exercise that power and to put those policies in place.
Exactly, which is the regrettable part, that the black people are only realizing now what they really voted for. The workers were promised tax cuts, protectionism, and are only realizing now that you cannot impose protectionist measures against other countries without those countries also reiterating. And America, no matter how powerful, and the fact that it is the biggest economy in the world, doesn't make it not vulnerable to counter actions by Europe, by Canada, by Panama, the rest of the Latin America. And if we were more organized in the African continent and uniting with the Asian countries, we could cause them serious harm, even though they are the biggest economy in the world.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be kowtowing. We shouldn't be capping and bowing to extreme white racism, in particular when he is brewing it here in South Africa. We shouldn't be, really hiding under our tables and not call neo-fascism what it is. What we are dealing with here is a more naked aggression of imperialism and the takeover of the world by corporate authoritarianism. That is to the benefit of Donald Trump's friends, those that are in particular coming from South Africa, who are now multi-billionaire. And they've not wasted any time to launch the most brutal attacks against the rights of workers in America, threatening the other nations of the world, from Canada to Greenland to Panama, to even encouraging Israeli to use its cooperation companies as well as from those of the United States of America to basically move out of Gaza Strip 2 million people and throw them elsewhere in the world, whilst telling them that they will have no right to ever claim their citizenship to Gaza again.
There are some international relations experts, though, that Vavu, who said South Africa has equally displayed this naked disregard, I suppose, of the relationship with America. They would say, in fact, one of the professors, a doctor was speaking to just earlier on, saying for a while now, even before the Trump administration, even during the Biden administration, the South African administration has been walking a tightrope as far as its relations with the United States. For example, maintaining relations with what would have been seen as enemies of Washington then. I don't know what you would say today, one of them being Russia, but two, Iran. We know where their position is there, as well as China. South Africa has been walking this tightrope while trying to avoid disrupting economic relations with America. So they've been provoking America for a while.
Look, I think that South Africa must stand very firm in rejection of this blackmail, including use of economic blockades against South Africa for the sole reason, because I think that's what we are dealing with here. The fact that South Africa has taken Israel and reported it into the International Court of Justice and correctly named what is happening in Gaza, what it is, which is genocide. We were right. The South African government have to be saluted and praised for taking that steps. This is what we are really paying for. So when they say we are antagonizing it because we are seen to be friendly to the American enemies, they mean that we have taken the racist, Zionist, apartheid regime of Israel to the International Court of Justice. That's what they mean. Of course, I'm also uncomfortable, and I guess SAFTU will be if it was to debate this matter, with South Africa's cozy relationship with Iran. Look, Iran may be displaying anti-imperialist, anti-America, anti-economic blockades that America has been advancing to beat many countries into line. But we should not go into the trap of, well, whoever who's anti-America must be automatically our friend. It doesn't work like that. Iran's record on human rights is well documented. Yeah. Iran's record against worker rights, women's rights, and media, opposition inside Iran is well known. And we should, whilst we are forced to cooperate with any other country as we are forced to cooperate with America, but we should not forget who we are as a nation, which is the point that Ebrahim Rasool was using. What lenses are you using? Are you going to use the lenses of a country with a constitution, with a history of apartheid colonialism that seeks to address that legacy of apartheid colonialism by embracing human rights here in South Africa and elsewhere in the world, whilst at the same time protecting the interest of the citizens of South Africa in terms of economic interest that we should be advancing to be able to trade and develop our economy. Yeah. And in the particular case, in our relationship with Iran, South Africa's relationship with Iran, I think we have turned that telescope that Ebrahim was speaking about upside down, and we are using perhaps the economic interest of South Africa above our human rights record as reflected in our own constitution's Bill of Rights.
We should not beg, we should not go with care. But should South Africa be in a hurry to send an envoy to the United States to, I suppose, affirm this very positive relation that we have between South Africa and the United States, according to Minister Lamula?
Look, we do need a relationship with the United States of America. This is our second biggest trading partner. This is where we are sending most of our manufactured goods, meaning that most of the jobs that South Africa has is owing to our trading relationship. with America, and we are not at all advocating for an adventurous move or arrogant or whatever. But in doing so, we've got to draw some line on the sand. We shouldn't be hanging Ebrahim Rasool and on the fence. We should say to the United States, you have an obligation to explain to us why you are dismissing our ambassador. And you cannot dismiss him because he holds particular views that you cannot debate with him, because you will be found wanting that indeed every step that you have taken since you were elected into the presidency smells racism, smells white supremacy, is anti-black, is anti-Islam, Islamic communities, is anti-migration, is bullying other nations of the world, including it is promoting and it is arch-imperialism. If you look at what they are doing to Panama and threatening to take it over, if you look at what they are doing in Gaza and threatening to basically displace 2 million people. And if you look at what they are doing even in Ukraine, in forcing them into a deal with a clear intention of signing a mining rights agreement with Ukraine to gain access by the corporates of America to the minerals wealth of Ukraine. This is not a country that is holy, not in any way. Trump represents the worst thing that could have happened to the humanity at this particular moment. And he normally says he's anti-war. No, hold on. He's not anti-war. He's using the peace ticket in order to beat everybody, to lie, to bully everybody, and to impose his corporate will. And that's why his friends have become so rich after he has been elected. They've become even more multi-billionaires than they were, because he's doing everything that he is to create environment for them to prosper, and by moving into other countries in an unrestricted manner to advance the interest of corporates of the United States, in particular of his friends, the likes of Elon Musk and others.
Mutual respect and willingness to engage in constructive dialogue could have been something, I suppose, the Biden administration would have opted for. But issues are different now. It doesn't seem that the Trump administration is interested in that more than it is interested in transactional diplomacy, where Trump wants to win and come at the top and get, I suppose, what he wants to get. So will the efforts of South Africa to try and get some kind of conversation going yield any fruit?
I wonder. If you listen to the guy who's preferred to be the next ambassador of South Africa, who's also a South African descent, it's quite very clear what the United States of America wants from South Africa. And what they want is basically bolstering what the extreme right-wing groups like AfriForum and Solidarity, or even the Democratic Alliance for that matter, they are very, very straightforward. They're saying, cut the relationship with Palestine. Drop that case in the ICC. Don't talk about genocide, even though you know 61,000 people have perished since 7th of October, more than a year ago now. Drop this Bila Act. Don't talk about the access of black people into the Afrikaner school so that they too can have their languages protected. Stop any talk about expropriation without compensation. Allow the existing property relationships in South Africa to remain. Don't do anything about the fact that the 1913 Land Act put the majority of South Africans' indigenous population into 13% of the land, whilst giving 13% of the population 87% of the land. Do nothing about that. And do nothing about any kind of transformation. Don't talk to us about black economic empowerment. And don't talk about us affirmative action. Drop all of that. And that's exactly what, by the way, they are doing in America. Drop all of that. Don't talk to us about labor rights and protection of the environment. Just allow corporates a further power to do as they wish in the name of development. If you bow to our demands, then we will list you again to the to our good books, or to the books of the good boys in the African continent. But as long as you are still talking about this transformation nonsense, they call it, we are going to bully you, we are going to promote AfriForum, we are going to expel your ambassador, we are going to bully you into submission. I don't think that South Africa is so powerless that it must admit to that kind of blackmail. It goes back to the point that I was making to some shots on Friday in my talk, to say the reason why we are finding ourselves here is because we allowed the existing economic interest to remain intact, to retain their interests that were accumulated through apartheid and colonialism. And in doing so, we have fed the very root of racism, and including imperialism. And that's what we have done. Had we nationalized these mines, had we not privatized ISCO and Sasol, had we retained our ability to develop the steel and to manufacture our minerals in South Africa, beneficiate and building secondary industries, have we prioritized economic relationships with the Southern African region and the rest of Africa, had we prioritized developmental relationships with the rest of the South, Latin America and Asia, that is going to be beneficial to all of the parties involved, we will not be finding ourselves where we are with the capping power.
Tata, let's leave it there. Much appreciated. Thanks for coming on. Zwelinzima Vavi, SAFTU General Secretary there, responding to the expulsion of Ambassador Ebrahim Rasool.